At 9:17 on the morning of my daughter's wedding reception, an appraiser I had never met stepped out of the hotel elevator carrying a black leather case. She looked down at her appointment sheet and said, "I'm here to verify ownership and complete the valuation for the proposed secured loan." My daughter Bethany was standing beside the cake table wearing my late wife's sapphire necklace. It was the same necklace I had refused to lend her 4 days earlier. Around her wrist was Evelyn's diamond bracelet. Her bouquet was pinned with Evelyn's emerald brooch, and the walnut jewelry chest I kept locked in my bedroom was nowhere in sight. I spent 32 years investigating insurance claims involving missing valuables and disputed ownership. I knew better than to begin with an accusation. So I asked the appraiser not to open her case. Then I asked Bethany one question. "Where is your mother's watch?" The look on her face told me the necklace was only the beginning. My name is Walter Mercer. I was 69 years old then, recently retired from a regional insurance company in Dayton, Ohio. Most of my working life had been spent handling property claims involving jewelry, antiques, artwork, and family collections. I learned early that objects carried two kinds of value. The first could be written on an appraisal. The second usually appeared only after someone tried to take the object away. My wife, Evelyn, understood that better than anyone. She had been a school librarian for 37 years. She labeled storage boxes, dated photographs, saved instruction manuals, and wrote small cream-colored cards explaining where important family pieces came from. Her jewelry chest contained one card for almost every item. The pearl pendant had belonged to her mother. The gold watch was a retirement gift from the school board. The sapphire necklace was from me, given on our 25th anniversary. It was not the largest stone I had ever insured, but it was the most meaningful thing I had ever purchased. I had saved for nearly a year without telling Evelyn. When I fastened it around her neck, she looked at herself in the bedroom mirror and said it was much too fine for a school librarian. Then she wore it to Bethany's college graduation, our 40th anniversary dinner, and a Christmas Eve when an ice storm knocked out the electricity. After Evelyn died from ovarian cancer, I did not open the jewelry chest for nearly 4 months. When I finally did, I found her card beneath the sapphire necklace. "Sapphire from Walter," she had written. "Not for an emergency, for remembering that we made it through." I read that line twice and closed the lid. The chest was not mentioned separately in Evelyn's will. Like most of our household property, the jewelry became mine. We had spoken generally about Bethany receiving certain pieces someday, but Evelyn had never prepared a final distribution list. At the time, I thought we would have years to decide. Cancer took that assumption from us. Bethany was our only child. She was 39, intelligent, hard-working, and more insecure than she allowed people to see. She worked in marketing for a medical equipment company and had spent much of her adult life comparing herself to people who seemed more successful. Their houses were larger. Their vacations were better. Their family photographs always looked effortless. Bethany could make an ordinary dinner feel inadequate simply by seeing someone else's centerpiece online. That was not all she was. She could be generous, funny, and deeply loyal. After Evelyn died, she brought food to my house every other day. She helped cancel appointments, returned medical equipment, and sat beside me while I chose a photograph for the memorial service. She cried harder than I did at the first Thanksgiving. That was the daughter I kept remembering each time another warning sign appeared. Bethany had been engaged to Kevin Lang for nearly a year. Kevin was 42 and worked as a municipal engineer. He had been married once before and had no children. Evelyn liked him because he never pretended to know more than he did. When a conversation moved outside his experience, he asked questions instead of manufacturing answers. Kevin and Bethany had originally planned a courthouse ceremony followed by a backyard reception for close family and friends. Then, about 6 months after Evelyn's death, Bethany came to my house and said she wanted something more formal. "Nothing enormous," she told me. "Maybe 80 people. A nice room, good food, music, and a table with Mom's photographs." We were sitting at my kitchen table. Bethany held Evelyn's yellow coffee mug between both hands, although the coffee inside had already gone cold. "Mom would hate the idea of us making everything small because she's gone," she said. I looked at the empty chair across from me. "Your mother would have wanted you to have a happy day." That sentence became larger than I intended. I offered Bethany $12,000 toward the reception. I transferred $6,000 for the initial deposit and said I would pay the remaining $6,000 directly after I saw the final invoices. The original event was supposed to cost a little over $14,000. That was already more than a backyard reception, but it was manageable. Kevin planned to cover the difference. Then the guest list grew. The community event room became the ballroom of the Briarwood Hotel. A string quartet appeared on the schedule. Then upgraded flowers, specialty lighting, a champagne display, a larger cake, premium wine, additional photography hours, and a late-night food service. Whenever I questioned an addition, Bethany connected it to Evelyn. Mom loved live music. Mom always said flowers made a room welcoming. Mom would want the family to have a proper meal. The first time, I let it pass because we were both grieving. The fifth time, I understood that Evelyn's memory had become a form of currency. Still, I did not confront Bethany directly. That was one of my weaknesses. I had spent years resolving disagreements by absorbing their cost. When Bethany overdrew her account in college, I paid the fee. When she left her first apartment before the lease ended, I covered the penalty. When she bought a car that stretched her salary too far, I helped with 3 payments and called it temporary. Evelyn sometimes warned me that helping too quickly prevented Bethany from learning what a decision actually cost. I would tell her I was protecting our daughter from one bad month. The trouble was that there was always another bad month. About 3 months before the reception, Bethany asked for the new garage code to my house. "I want to scan Mom's photographs for the memory table," she said. "I can do it while you're at your dental appointment." She had known our old code for years. I had changed it after the funeral because too many relatives and service workers had used it during Evelyn's illness. Giving the new code to my daughter did not feel reckless. I texted it to her. A week later, I noticed one of Evelyn's silver picture frames was missing from the living room. Bethany admitted taking it for the display. "You could have asked," I said. "I knew you would say yes." "That is not the same as asking." She promised to return it after the reception. The frame remained at her apartment. A month later, 2 pearl hairpins disappeared from the jewelry chest. Evelyn had worn them at our niece's wedding. Bethany said her stylist wanted to test them with her reception hairstyle. Again, she had not asked. Again, I allowed her explanation to become permission after the fact. 4 days before the reception, Bethany came to my house and asked to borrow the sapphire necklace. She had brought her dress shoes and a photograph of the ivory reception gown. "I want one part of Mom with me," she said. "You will have her photographs, the pearl hairpins, and the frame. The necklace is different. That is why I am not comfortable lending it." Her expression changed. "You let Aunt Helen wear Mom's brooch at the memorial luncheon." I was standing beside her, and she returned it before we left. "I'm your daughter." "Yes." "Then why are you treating me like I'm going to steal something?" "I did not say that." "You didn't need to." I waited before answering. "The necklace stays here." Bethany folded the dress photograph and put it back in her purse. "Mom said the jewelry would be mine. She said you would receive some of it someday." "Someday?" "Not this weekend." She left without saying goodbye. For the next several hours, I felt mean and possessive. I opened the jewelry chest that evening and read Evelyn's card again. Part of me wanted to call Bethany and reverse my answer simply to restore peace. But I had started to notice that peace in our family often meant Bethany received what she wanted, and I stopped mentioning how it happened. The following morning, I drove to my sister-in-law Helen's house. Helen was Evelyn's older sister. She had the same narrow eyes Evelyn used to give me when I was avoiding an obvious truth. When I told her about the necklace, Helen folded her paper napkin, into 3 exact sections. She did hear Evelyn say she would have some pieces, Helen said. That is what Bethany keeps repeating. What she leaves out is the rest of the conversation. Helen looked toward the window. Last summer, Beth mentioned having one of the bracelets reset. Evelyn said she wanted Beth to receive family things when she was ready to keep them as family things. What did that mean? You know what it meant. I did. Bethany had sold gifts before when money became tight. Nothing major, but enough that Evelyn had noticed. Helen picked up her coffee. Your wife worried that both of you made life too easy for Beth when she panicked. Both of us? She did not exclude herself. Evelyn knew she stepped in too quickly, too. Helen gave me a tired smile. She once said, "We keep finishing Beth's hard lessons for her. That is all." She did not know how to stop doing it either. That sounded like Evelyn. Practical, honest, and not perfectly certain. 2 days before the reception, I returned from lunch and found the side door of my house unlocked. Nothing appeared disturbed at first. The television remained on the wall. My desk drawers were closed. The kitchen cabinets looked untouched. Then I entered the bedroom. The walnut jewelry chest was gone from the closet shelf. I stood in the doorway listening to the ceiling fan chain tap against the glass light fixture. People imagine panic as movement. Mine felt like every part of me had stopped at once. I called Bethany. "Do you have your mother's jewelry chest?" There was a pause. "I borrowed it. You entered my house and removed the entire chest. I needed to compare the pieces with the dress. I already answered you." End quote. I didn't know which necklace would work. Bring it back today. I'm in the middle of reception preparations. Then pause them. Dad, I am not driving across town because you suddenly think I'm a criminal. I did not call you a criminal. I said you took something after I refused permission. It belonged to Mom, too. She was my mother. She was my wife. Bethany's breathing became louder through the phone. You always do this, she said. You hide behind technical language so you don't have to admit you're angry. I am angry. That quieted her for a second. Bring the chest back. I'll return it after the reception. No, I can't deal with this right now. She ended the call. I opened the fireproof cabinet in my home office. After Evelyn died, I had photographed and inventoried her jewelry for the insurance company. The file contained purchase receipts, earlier appraisals, repair records, photographs, and copies of the cream cards. 23 pieces were listed. Their combined insured value was a little over $46,000. The sapphire necklace accounted for nearly a third. I did not call the police. Not yet. Calling would have protected me legally, but it also would have set consequences in motion that neither of us could easily stop. I wanted the jewelry returned. I did not want my daughter arrested 2 days before her reception unless she had already transferred or disposed of it. My next call was to the Briarwood Hotel. Denise Carter, the event coordinator, answered. Denise had the steady voice of someone accustomed to solving problems while preventing guests from realizing there had been a problem. I explained that I was Bethany's father and that I had agreed to contribute a fixed amount. I'm trying to confirm what remains due under the contract, I said. There was a pause while she opened the account. The outstanding balance is $21,400. I sat down. Beyond the deposit? Yes. That cannot be correct. Denise explained that the event had been amended several times. Some additions had already been paid partially by Bethany and Kevin, but the remaining amount was due before the ballroom opened. Who is listed as financially responsible? Bethany Mercer and Kevin Lang. My name is not on the contract? Not on the current agreement. That mattered. Bethany had not forged my signature or made me legally responsible. She had created an event she expected me to rescue after it became too public to reduce. I asked Denise to send the account summary to Kevin and Bethany. She could not send the complete contract directly to me without their authorization, but she confirmed the major categories and payment deadline. Then I asked whether any outside vendors were scheduled to arrive before the reception. Denise read through the list. Florist, photographer, quartet, rental company, lighting crew, and Rios and Bell Estate valuations. What time is the valuation appointment? 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. What is being valued? The note only says private family property consultation. I called Rios and Bell. A receptionist confirmed that Bethany had an appointment, but she would not discuss the purpose or the property without Bethany's permission. That was the correct answer. It was also the answer that left me imagining the worst. I called Kevin. Did you help Bethany take the jewelry? What? Evelyn's jewelry chest. Did you help remove it from my house? No. There is an appraisal appointment at the hotel tomorrow. I don't know anything about an appraisal. The reception has a $21,000 balance. Kevin said nothing for several seconds. That is not possible. It is what the hotel told me. Beth said you had increased your contribution. I did not. She said you wanted to take care of the reception because it was what Evelyn would have wanted. I offered $12,000. $6,000 has been paid. Kevin's voice became guarded. Why are you telling me this as if I arranged it? Because your name is on the contract. I signed the original contract. And the amendments? I signed one change when we moved the date. Beth handled the rest. I had spent my career hearing people distance themselves from documents when the numbers became uncomfortable. I allowed that experience to make a decision before the evidence did. You expect me to believe you did not notice a ballroom, a quartet, and 100 extra decisions? I noticed the decisions. I did not know the unpaid amount. You are marrying her tomorrow, Kevin. You don't get to be surprised by every bill. His breathing changed. I'm not asking to be surprised. I'm telling you what I knew. You signed your name to a $14,000 reception. Then perhaps you should have read whatever came after it. He was quiet. When he answered, the warmth had left his voice. I did read what I signed, Walter. Maybe you should decide whether you're calling me careless or dishonest before you call again. The line disconnected. For several minutes, I felt justified. Then Kevin emailed me. Attached was the original contract showing a total of $14,300. His signature appeared at the bottom. He also attached a bank statement showing that he had already paid $5,000 toward the event and moved another $3,000 into savings for the final balance he believed would remain after my contribution. A second attachment contained a text from Bethany, sent 3 weeks earlier. Dad wants to add a few things for Mom. I told him it's too much, but he insists. Please let me handle it because talking about her still upsets him. I read the message twice. Bethany had used my grief to mislead Kevin and Kevin's name to make me assume agreement. I called him back. He answered on the 4th ring. I was wrong to accuse you, I said. I made an assumption before I had proof. Kevin did not rescue me from the discomfort. Yes, you did. I'm sorry. I should have asked to see every revision, he said. I trusted her when I should have checked, but I did not know about the jewelry or the balance. I believe you now. What is she planning? I don't know yet. That admission was difficult. What do we do? He asked. We find out what has happened to the jewelry. Then we decide what can still be changed at the hotel. I'm going to call her. Ask her to return the chest, but do not tell her what I suspect about the appraisal. Why? Because I do not want her moving anything if she thinks we are trying to stop a transaction. Kevin agreed, although I could hear how much the conversation had shaken him. That night he went to Bethany's apartment. He called me from the parking lot an hour later. She says the jewelry is safe, he said. Did you see it? No. She said it's already at the hotel. What did she say about the appraiser? That she's updating the values for insurance. The current appraisal is less than a year old. I told her that. What did she say? She said you never showed it to her. Kevin rubbed the back of his neck whenever he felt trapped. I could picture him doing it through the phone. She admitted the hotel balance, he continued. She said she has a way to cover it and that we will repay everything after the wedding gifts come in. Did she explain the way? No. Then tomorrow morning we go to the hotel together. Walter, if she has applied for some kind of loan, we verify before we accuse. The words were as much for me as they were for him. I spent the next hour comparing the jewelry inventory with photographs on Bethany's social media page. In a picture posted from the hotel's bridal suite, the walnut chest was visible behind a makeup bag. The lid was open. The sapphire necklace, bracelet, and brooch were laid across a white towel. The gold watch was not there. Neither were the silver frame or pearl hairpins. I called Helen and asked her to come over. She arrived carrying a canvas tote and a container of soup I had not requested. I told her about the chest, the hotel balance, and the appraisal appointment. Helen did not say she had warned me. Instead, she asked, "What do you know, and what are you guessing?" It was the same distinction I had explained to younger claims investigators for years. I know she took the chest. I know she arranged an appraisal. I know she misled Kevin about the balance and my contribution. What are you guessing? That she is borrowing against the jewelry. And the missing watch? I don't know. Helen nodded. So tomorrow you protect what is yours, but do not turn a guess into a verdict before breakfast. Before she left, she reminded me of something Evelyn had said years earlier, after one of Bethany's financial emergencies. She said you were both so afraid of Beth feeling ashamed that you kept removing the part where she had to repair what she did. That memory hurt because it was ordinary. There was no final note predicting the future, no perfectly written instruction. Just my wife recognizing a pattern while she was still alive, and neither of us changing it enough. By 9 that evening, I had made several decisions. I changed the garage code. I removed Bethany as an emergency authorized contact on my checking account. She had never withdrawn money, but the authority remained from the months of Evelyn's illness. I printed the jewelry, inventory, and photographs. I would not sign any ownership transfer or loan authorization. I would not pay more than the additional $6,000 I had already promised. And I would not involve the police unless an item had been sold, pledged, or refused after a clear demand for return. At 8 the next morning, Kevin met Helen and me in the hotel lobby. He looked as though he had not slept. Before we went upstairs, I asked Denise for a private meeting. She brought us into a small conference room near the ballroom. I need to understand what can realistically be reduced if the full balance is not paid, I said. Denise reviewed the account. Most of the food had already been prepared or ordered. The flowers were installed. The photographer, musicians, and rental company had passed their cancellation deadlines. The ballroom staff were already working. The reception could not simply be cut in half without leaving businesses unpaid. However, certain additions could still be removed or shortened. Unopened premium alcohol could be returned to the distributor. The champagne display could be canceled before setup. The late-night food service could be eliminated. The quartet could play for 1 hour instead of 3. Extra lighting time and the final 90 minutes of ballroom rental could be removed. The total savings would be approximately $5,600. That still left a substantial balance. If the remainder is not paid before the doors open, what happens? Kevin asked. Denise explained that the hotel could delay the event, restrict additional services, or require a written short-term payment agreement from the contracted couple. The hotel would not transfer responsibility to me simply because I was the bride's father. That was fair. It also meant Bethany would not escape the financial consequences simply because I refused to rescue her. We agreed that no changes would be authorized until Bethany joined the meeting. At 9 o'clock, we entered the ballroom. White flowers lined the entrance. Pale blue linens covered the tables. A sign in gold lettering read, "Bethany and Kevin, at last." Staff members moved between tables with quiet efficiency. The room looked expensive because it was expensive. Bethany stood near the cake table wearing her ivory reception gown. The sapphire necklace rested against her throat. Evelyn's diamond bracelet was around her wrist. The emerald brooch was pinned to the ribbon around her bouquet. For 1 second, I saw my daughter at 7 years old, standing in our bedroom wearing her mother's shoes. Then I remembered the empty closet shelf. Bethany noticed Kevin first. "What are you doing here already?" "We need to talk," he said. Her eyes moved to Helen and then to me. "You brought Aunt Helen?" I asked her to come. "Why?" "Where is the jewelry chest?" "It's in the bridal suite." "Bring it to the meeting room." Bethany lowered her voice. "I am not doing this today. I tried to do it at home. You are trying to ruin my reception over things Mom intended for me." Kevin stepped closer. "You told me Walter had agreed to pay for the additions." Bethany looked at him. "I told you he wanted to help. You said he insisted. This is not the time. It became the time when the hotel told us what we owe." Bethany's face tightened. "We have a plan." "What plan?" Kevin asked. Before she answered, the elevator doors opened behind us. A woman in a navy suit stepped into the hallway carrying a black leather case. She checked the appointment information on her phone. "Bethany Mercer?" Bethany went still. The woman approached. "I'm Elena Ruiz with Rios and Bell Estate Valuations. My earlier appointment canceled, so I arrived ahead of schedule." She offered her hand to Bethany, then looked toward the rest of us. "I understand the current owner will be present for ownership verification before I complete the valuation for the proposed secured loan." Kevin turned slowly toward Bethany. I did not need to accuse her. The truth had introduced itself. "I'm Walter Mercer," I said. "Evelyn Mercer's surviving husband and the current owner of the jewelry." Elena's professional expression did not change, but she closed the appointment folder. "Then I will need to confirm identification and written authorization before inspecting anything." "There will be no authorization," I said, "but I would like to understand what information was submitted in my name." "I can discuss only the portions identifying you once I verify your identity," she said. "The applicant's private financial information remains confidential unless she authorizes disclosure." That answer was careful and realistic. We moved into the conference room. Bethany brought the walnut chest from the bridal suite. She placed it on the table, but continued wearing the necklace and bracelet. Elena reviewed my identification and the appraisal records I had brought. She then showed me the ownership statement attached to the valuation request. Bethany had not forged my signature. Instead, she had written that the pieces were family jewelry expected to transfer from father to daughter, and that the current owner would attend the appointment to authorize the valuation and any later collateral agreement. The appraisal company had been hired by a private lender considering a short-term secured loan. No loan had been approved. No jewelry had been transferred. Nothing could proceed without proof of ownership and my signature. "How much did you request?" Kevin asked. Bethany looked down. $25,000. The room remained quiet. "I wasn't giving the jewelry away," she said. "It would have been stored securely until the loan was repaid." "With what money?" Kevin asked. "Wedding gifts, my annual bonus. We could have paid it off within a few months." "You applied for a loan against property you do not own. I thought Dad would agree once he understood." "I told you no," I said. "You told me I couldn't wear the necklace. You did not say anything about a temporary loan." For a moment, even she seemed to hear how weak that argument sounded. Elena explained that her company performed independent valuations. The lender, not the appraisal company, would determine interest, fees, storage, and repayment terms. Bethany had forwarded a preliminary lender estimate to the appraisal office. With her permission, Elena allowed Kevin and me to see it. The rate was high. There was an origination fee, insured storage charge, and a 90-day repayment period. Failure to repay could allow the lender to sell the collateral after the required notices and grace period. "You were going to risk your mother's jewelry for one afternoon," Kevin said. "I was not going to lose it. You did not even tell me. I was trying to protect you from the stress." Kevin gave a short, disbelieving laugh. "That is what you told me Walter was doing." Bethany's eyes moved toward me. "Dad, you have the money. There it was. Not a request. Not even an accusation. A belief. You have more money than you use, she continued. I knew you would not let the hotel shut down the reception once everyone was coming. I opened the jewelry chest and placed my printed inventory beside it. Take off the necklace and bracelet. Her hand rose toward the sapphire. You are going to make me walk into the reception wearing nothing of Mom's? You have her pearl pendant. That is not the same. No, it is not worth enough to solve your bill. Her face reddened. I regretted the sharpness as soon as I said it, but I did not withdraw the point. Bethany unclasped the necklace and placed it in the chest. Then she removed the bracelet and brooch. Her best friend was wearing Evelyn's pearl earrings. Bethany called her into the room and asked for them back without explanation. I checked each item against the inventory. The gold watch was missing. So were the pearl hairpins and silver frame. Where is the watch? Bethany stared at the table. It's at a consignment office. Kevin stepped away from her. You said nothing had been transferred. It hasn't sold. You took it there? I needed a preliminary offer in case the loan didn't work. Which office? I asked. She named a downtown auction and estate consignment business I recognized. Where is the receipt? In my purse. The intake document showed the watch had been accepted for evaluation, not yet listed for sale. Bethany had signed as the person presenting the property. I called the office while everyone listened. The manager would not release the watch based on a telephone request. Because ownership had been disputed, the item would be placed on hold. Bethany would need to submit a signed withdrawal form, provide identification, and appear in person with me on the next business day. Until then, the watch would remain secured and could not be listed or transferred. That meant I could not place every piece back in the chest that morning. For the first time, my preparation had reached a limit. I had to trust a process I could not complete immediately. Where are the hairpins? I asked. With my stylist. And the silver frame? Bethany closed her eyes. I sold it. Helen lowered her head. How much? I asked. $600. When? 2 weeks ago. The frame had held a photograph from our 20th anniversary. Its silver value was modest. Its family value had never been offered for sale. I felt anger move through me so quickly that I set my water bottle down before I dropped it. Who bought it? Someone online. Everybody. Send me the listing, messages, and payment record. Bethany looked as though she wanted to argue, but Kevin spoke first. Send him everything. Denise entered after Bethany authorized her to discuss the contract in front of us. She explained the possible reductions, even after canceling the champagne display, shortening the quartet, removing the late-night service, returning unopened alcohol, and ending the reception earlier. The outstanding balance would still be $15,800. I had promised another $6,000. Kevin had $3,000 available. That left $6,800. Bethany looked at me. I did not respond. Denise explained that the hotel could allow the reception to proceed if Bethany and Kevin signed a 60-day payment agreement for the remainder. The agreement included a modest administrative fee and required scheduled payments. It would not involve me. Kevin read every page. I will sign for half, he said, not all of it. Bethany stared at him. We're getting married. We are also two people who need to know what we are agreeing to. The hotel divided the remaining obligation between them. Kevin's responsibility reflected expenses he acknowledged approving. Bethany assumed the larger portion connected to additions she had arranged without his knowledge. It was not a dramatic legal punishment. It was a bill. That made it more appropriate. I will pay the $6,000 I promised, I said. Nothing beyond that. Bethany's voice trembled. You would really let me start my marriage in debt? You already made that decision. She looked at Kevin. He did not abandon her. He also did not rescue her. After several minutes, Bethany signed. The reception would continue with fewer extras and a shorter schedule. The food already prepared would be served. The flowers would remain. The photographer would stay for the contracted period. The quartet would play for 1 hour. Guests would still enter a beautiful room. They simply would not see the most expensive version of it. Before we left the meeting room, I removed Bethany's pearl pendant from a small pouch in the jewelry chest. Evelyn had worn it to work more often than any other piece. I placed it on the table. "You may wear this today if you want to." Bethany looked at it but did not touch it immediately. "Is it mine?" "No. It is something I am lending you with a clear agreement that it comes back tonight." Her mouth tightened. Then she nodded. "I understand." Kevin fastened it around her neck. At 1 o'clock, the ballroom doors opened. The reception did not collapse. No one complained about the missing champagne display. Most guests never knew there had been one. The quartet played during the arrival and meal. Recorded music took over afterward. The flowers softened the room. The food was good. The cake stood 4 tiers high, although the top leaned slightly by the time it was cut. Kevin's brother gave a speech that made everyone laugh. Bethany's closest friend spoke about loyalty and growing up together. I watched Bethany listen, with the pearl pendant resting against her dress. She did not look triumphant. She looked tired. Near the end of dinner, she came to my table. "Can we speak outside?" We stepped into the hallway. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. "I know I crossed a line," she said. "You crossed several." "I know." She wiped beneath one eye. "I can't explain all of it right now." "Then don't." She seemed surprised. "I am not asking for a full apology while 100 people are waiting for you to cut a cake." "What happens after today?" "Monday, you come with me to retrieve the watch. Tonight, you return the pendant and the hairpins. Tomorrow, you send me every message related to the frame, the appraisal, and the lender. And after that, we see whether your actions match what you say." Her face tightened. "You don't trust me. Not with these things." She looked toward the ballroom doors. "Are you going to tell everyone?" "No." "Why not?" "Because this is about protecting what belongs to your mother and me. It is not about embarrassing you." Bethany nodded once. Then she said, "I really did want her here." "I know." That was all we could manage that day. The reception ended 90 minutes earlier than originally planned. The pearl pendant was returned before Bethany left the hotel. The pearl hairpins came back the following morning in a plastic salon pouch. On Monday, Bethany, Kevin, and I went to the consignment office together. Bethany presented identification and signed the withdrawal form. I provided the purchase record and prior appraisal. The manager charged a small evaluation fee, then returned Evelyn's watch. I inspected it before leaving. It was unharmed. The silver frame was harder. Bethany gave me the online listing and the buyer's contact information. I wrote to the woman without accusing her of anything. She had purchased it legally and had already given it to her daughter as a graduation gift. When I explained that the frame had been taken and sold without the owner's permission, she offered to return it if I reimbursed her purchase price and shipping. I paid her. Bethany repaid me over 3 months, including the shipping and platform fees. It would have been easy for me to refuse the repayment because the amount was small compared with the reception. I did not refuse it. Repair required more than regret. Bethany and Kevin began marriage counseling. They also separated their personal discretionary accounts while maintaining one shared account for household expenses. Kevin did not tell me details of their sessions. He only said they were trying to learn the difference between privacy and secrecy. I apologized to him again for assuming he was involved in the jewelry plan. He accepted, but he did not pretend my accusation had not affected him. "You heard one bad fact and decided I fit the rest," he said. He was right. My experience had helped me recognize risk. It had also made me too comfortable believing I could read a situation before every person had spoken. That was my mistake to repair. Bethany paid the hotel according to the agreement. Some wedding gifts helped, but not enough to erase the balance immediately. She canceled a planned vacation and used part of her year-end bonus. For once, I did not offer to replace what the consequences cost her. I hired Elena to complete a formal updated appraisal at my house. She documented each piece, photographed its condition, and corrected two values that had changed. I also met with an estate attorney and prepared a personal property memorandum naming intended recipients for specific items. The sapphire necklace was not assigned to Bethany. Neither was it assigned to anyone else. I was not ready to make that decision. The pearl pendant remained listed as mine, although I noted that Bethany might receive it later if I chose. I changed the garage code and did not provide the new one to her. Bethany was still welcome in my home. She simply had to arrive while I was there. For several months, our conversations remained careful. We spoke about work, weather, groceries, and Kevin's latest road project. We did not mention the sapphire necklace. Trust did not return during one dramatic conversation. It returned in smaller pieces. Bethany began asking before borrowing things. She sent her hotel payments on schedule. She returned a box of Evelyn's photographs after scanning them and included an itemized list. Once, while I was away overnight, a pipe beneath my kitchen sink leaked. Bethany met the plumber at my house, but she waited outside until Helen arrived with the temporary access code I had provided. She did not complain. 6 months after the reception, Bethany came over on a Sunday morning carrying Evelyn's yellow mug. "I took this after the funeral," she said. "I noticed. I kept telling myself you had plenty of mugs." She set it on the table. "That was how I explained a lot of things. You had more than you needed, so taking one thing did not feel like taking." I filled the kettle and waited. Bethany sat in Evelyn's old chair. "I kept looking at other people's weddings," she said. "Women from work, people online, Kevin's cousins. Everyone seemed to have these perfect rooms and perfect photographs." She ran her thumb along the mug's handle. "Mom always made family days feel special. Even when we had no money, she made things look finished. I thought if my reception looked big enough, it would prove I could do what she did. Your mother did not do it alone. I know that now." She also reused decorations, borrowed serving dishes, and worried about bills. Bethany gave a small, embarrassed laugh. "I never noticed that part." "No, we made sure you didn't." She looked at me. "That is not an excuse for what I did." "No. I knew you had said no. I just believed that once everything was already happening, you would pay rather than let me be embarrassed. You were probably right about the man I had been." Her eyes filled. "I hated you that morning." "I know. Then I hated myself. Then I decided hating you was easier." "That sounds human." She looked toward the hallway leading to my bedroom. "I don't expect you to give me the jewelry. That is good. I want to earn back being trusted around it. That will take time." "I know. I made cinnamon toast the way Evelyn used to make it, with too much butter and a little nutmeg mixed into the sugar." Bethany found the cream-colored jewelry cards in a folder on the sideboard. "May I read them?" I sat across from her and slid the folder over. She read several quietly. Then she found the card for the sapphire necklace. "Not for an emergency," she read. Her voice caught on the next line. "For remembering that we made it through." She placed the card back in the folder. "I turned everything into an emergency. For a while. I'm sorry, Dad." This time, she did not explain the apology or ask what it would purchase. "I'm sorry too," I said. "Your mother and I kept stepping in before you had to finish difficult things. I thought protecting you from consequences was the same as protecting you." Bethany nodded. "We all made mistakes," she said. "Some mistakes still belonged more to one person than another. That one was mine." We ate cinnamon toast at the kitchen table with the yellow mug between us. Bethany did not leave with the sapphire necklace that morning. She left with the mug. "This time," she asked. "The necklace remains in its walnut chest above Evelyn's handwritten card. Bethany and I are still rebuilding, but our relationship no longer depends on pretending that love and permission mean the same thing. For now, the necklace is safe. And so am I. Have you ever had to set a boundary with someone you loved? Share what you would have done, and subscribe to Wise Dad Stories for more stories about family, dignity, and quiet strength.